Ron, business isn't about paperwork. Business is about relationships and getting shit done. And I was like, well, I can get shit done and people like me. Let's do that. And that's what I realized, okay, so I can literally learn anything. You can learn anything, and usually trial by fire. So if you want to try it, see if you can do it, and then apply the wisdom you already have, which is relationships, and get shit done. And it works. You can do anything.
Hey everybody, I'm here today with Ron Worley, and he is here to share an amazing story of overcoming drug and alcohol addiction to becoming a successful serial entrepreneur, as well as having a near-death experience that changed his perspective on life. Check it out. Ron Worley.
Good to see you, Matt.
It's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, this is fun, dude. I love your place, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been talking about this for months and months. We've both been busy with a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I pretend to be busy a lot.
You've got just a crazy, interesting, awesome story.
Yeah.
Lots of different experiences and backgrounds, and like your story brings so much value to so many people.
Thank you.
I just really want to highlight that, man, today.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because I just tend to do whatever the hell I want to do. Right. I just do a lot of stuff. I don't do it well. Usually I learn a lot of lessons. I wasn't a school, like really doing a lot of research and, being smart. That wasn't my jam. Mine was being ballsy. Like, let me try it, So, in my book, I talk about F it, try it. That's the PG version, fuck it, try it that's literally the words I live by.
Now we're explicit, Joey. Mark that.
Uh-oh.
There we go. That's marked. We have marked it.
You said, man.
Hey, I said you say whatever you want.
That's right. So it's gotten me in a lot of trouble over the years. But I think the story you're probably talking about is the way back. I'm going on 21 years sober now.
Congrats, man.
Thanks.
So proud of you, dude.
That is... it's been easy to. I'll just be straight. It's been easy since I made the decision. It was not easy getting to the decision to.
Because you're how old now?
I'm 51.
51. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in your 30s. So how long were you not sober?
So I was 30 when I got sober. So I started drinking at 12. I started smoking weed when I was 2. My parents, 2 years old. 2 years old. My parents thought it'd be fun to get me high the first time. And it didn't stop. So basically, that was how I went to bed because I was pretty wound up as a kid. So my dad, I won't blame my mom because she was somewhat of she was definitely an abused woman. So what dad said went, as soon as I could suck out of a straw, he thought it'd be funny to stick a pipe in my mouth, and it went on from there. I have memories.
Who does that? I'm sorry, like who?
Yeah, dude, it's jacked up.
Who does that?
Who
thinks of that?
Right. I tried for years to give my dad a pass. He's deceased now, and his lifestyle killed him. Basically, he was actually murdered by police, and he was sober at the time, which was super weird, but. We weren't talking. It wasn't a great relationship because of all that. I think I got my F it, try it stuff from him, honestly, because he was just kind of a ballsy, short little man that mouthed off to everybody, was always fighting, and he's brutal. But for him, he thought it would be fun to get me stoned, and I have memories of being in circles. You go to we'd work on cars all the time. So you go in, he actually owned a body shop at one point, and we'd go into the body shop and there'd be 4 or 5 guys. All right, let's smoke a joint. And there I'd be in the circle and they'd just pass it along. And every once in a while, one of the guys that didn't know me would be like, you want me to give this to your kid? I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old.
So it's just part of your diet at that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would go to school and, don't tell anybody. And I would go to school, and eventually, I'd bring kids home, and I would be worried that somebody's going to find out that my parents smoke weed. They're going to go to jail, all that fun stuff. But I was actively participating. My uncle at the time was also my dad's greatest friend, my mom's brother. And so he was in on it. And so when I'd go to his house, I get high with them every night. I have memories being a very young child, and I like to get high at Christmas time because the Christmas lights were so awesome. I'd lay back on the couch, and he also grew, so I had a lot of fun. You remember zebra stripe gum?
Yes.
So I just take that wrapper off, and I'd roll some pot up in that and smoke it because they didn't like me to smoke outside of them. That was the weird part.
Okay.
But at 12 years old, my mom said enough is enough. They were divorced many years by then, but she said, enough, you're not smoking weed anymore. She shut it down.
Did that weed lead to other things?
Yeah, so then I went and found it on my own, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like that's about when, so 11, 12 years old is when I started getting into the scene. You know, to their defense, I was protected within their walls. You know, yeah, I'm getting high, but I wasn't out looking for it. I wasn't trying to find it from other people. Once they cut me off, then it was on. You know, I was staying the night at places where I shouldn't have been, you know, staying at this friend's or that friend's house because they had alcohol. As soon as I couldn't get the weed anymore, I started drinking. You know, that's easy. So, and then it led, you know, I had a friend I think I was 14, 15 years old. I had a friend that's mom was a coke dealer, and he would just constantly be ripping her off. And so I'd go stay the night at his house and
Do some coke.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. That would lead to some crazy adventures in the wild streets of Alaska.
Did you grow up here? Was this all happening in Greeley in northern Colorado?
Northern Colorado. Okay. I lived in Fort Lupton until 6th grade. Then we kind of moved around a lot. In 8th grade, I moved 5 times. The last place was Alaska. I finally moved in with my mom. She had gotten sober herself. So there was some stability there. She made some promises that she kept, and I moved in with her and my stepdad. Finally, some stability, but it was way too late. I was 14. I had a life going. I was a drug addict, alcoholic already, living a double life. Like, for me, it feels, you know, I got kids, and my daughter is probably lived the closest to that lifestyle that I did. Come home, be a certain way, go out in the world, be another way, and do some drugs, drink some alcohol, and boy, you're a whole nother person. But that person I loved, and the person at home I didn't love. I felt like that was the fake persona. The guy that was out being an ass, that was cool.
So you're just, I mean, you've known nothing other than like you're high at 2. So like, what else do you know? That's all you know.
Right. It's part of life.
So you're out doing your thing. And then where does that lead? Because like today we're talking offline.
Yeah.
Like I just sold this company and
Yeah.
you know, this and that, like serial entrepreneur, multimillionaire,
Yeah.
like all the great stuff, success story.
Right.
Your parents are getting you high at 2.
Right.
You're upside down in a ditch later in the story. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? So your story, your book, Ditches to Riches, and how you overcame that. So like, how do you go from that to where you are now? Like, what was that turning point for you?
So for a year, I started getting in trouble. At 19, I got thrown in jail my first time, and it was for some pretty brutal charges that I did not do. In fact, I was being accused of rape, and I'm in college, and I've got a girlfriend, and I'm like, she moved down from Alaska to be there with me, and I'm playing football, and like, what the hell, man? What do you mean rape? Like, that changed my life. A girl can just say something, and you're in jail like that quick.
This was your girlfriend?
This was not my girlfriend. This is somebody who was mad at me. When we got to the first court date, you know, kind of all came out and charges were dropped immediately after that. But I had to live a month thinking I was going to prison for the rest of my life.
But how does that happen or come about? So she's pissed at you for something. And
Yeah.
just says you raped her?
Yep. At gunpoint too, by the way, which
And then they just come arrest you without asking questions or
That's
having
how that
some
goes.
facts or some evidence.
Yep, that's how that goes. They never had a weapon that, you know, she said it was at gunpoint. They never recovered a weapon, and she told them right where it would be, and it wasn't there. Like, she had a lot of facts that made it seem true one-sidedly, you know. the good thing for me was that there was another. So that night we all were drinking, and I went into the bathroom with two females. Yeah, and one of the females was claiming the rape. The other girl was like, "Yeah, no," and they were best friends. But the one girl just was super religious. She felt guilty because of God, but she also didn't want to see this go down that way. So she kind of fell off the lie train and just started telling the truth. And thank God God got to her heart, because, that's too easy to do. All they had to do was team up, and it's over.
That's wild.
It's a wild story.
But you're in handcuffs in jail facing that.
Yeah.
And that just gets dropped.
Yeah, just got dropped. I got bailed out of jail, spent the right before a Christmas break for college. And I went home, and just every night, oh my God, I'm going to jail. And I didn't do this. But this is what drinking led me to. Because here's the other part. I was wasted. And
with two girls in a bathroom. So that's not an uncompromising.
And I got a girlfriend that I went home to that
neither
night.
of those two were your girlfriend?
No.
What were you guys doing in the bathroom?
Well, what do you mean? Oh, we were playing cards.
Just playing cards? Okay. Hey, man. Hey,
So, yeah. But there was, it never went too far. That was the other part that just didn't make sense. Like, we never went, there was no intercourse or anything like that at all. We were just kind of making out and stuff.
When they dropped those charges, were there any repercussions for her?
None.
Or false allegations, accusations, anything like that?
This is 1991 or 2, I think 92, in Chadron, Nebraska, Podunk town. And so it was huge news. So by the time I got to the college, they did their own, I don't know, they put a bunch of people in a room and said, "Tell us your story." And I looked at my lawyer and I'm like, this can't be legal. Like, I don't owe you an explanation for anything. But so whereas she dropped all the charges before, or the courts did, literally 30 minutes later, I'm sitting in this room with a bunch of old dudes that think I did this. And they're like, "Tell us your side." And so instantly, they kicked me out immediately after. Like, I don't even know why they asked me, because they were kicking me out no matter what.
Okay.
And they knew all the charges were dropped and stuff. So college didn't go well.
So this late teens, college years, and you're still drugging, drinking.
Yep.
Doing a thing. Okay.
So I quit. That was where I was going with that. Is I quit drinking at that point. I was scared straight for 9 months. Yeah. But I thought I could smoke weed still, so I just kind of smoked a little weed here and there. Eventually, I started drinking again. And that's, so you ask, how do you get to that point? My mother was pounding it in my head that I needed to get sober. She was not stupid. She knew I was a drunk and drug addict, alcoholic at 14. Yeah. And she was trying to constantly keep me straight. And I just, every time something would happen, it's because you drink too much, son. You got to stop. She'd ground me for months at a time. But I would just, every chance I got, I had a window that I could open in high school, and we lived out in the middle of nowhere, 7 miles out of town, and my buddies would come and they would bring stuff in the window for me, Jeremy's coming over, and Jeremy's bringing an 8-ball, and here we go. Wow. But we're here. I'm not doing drugs because I'm in your house. So,
or do you?
Right. They didn't know. So that went on for years. What ultimately worked was I had to be ready. Like, I was tired of it. And after my first divorce, which, I can honestly say that alcohol was a player in that, but not a player in the demise, but the player in getting married. I met a woman that I thought my mom would like. And I said, okay, I got to make that work. And we got pregnant, and I was like, well, my kid's not going to grow up without a dad. So then a whole lot of have-tos came along, and I just did that, and I'll make it work. Yeah. This is easy. I can make it work. She's cute. My mom likes her. And that just didn't work out. Pretty soon I was out drinking hard and, womanizing. And, in fact, I had a girlfriend pretty much the whole marriage. So, yeah. So that's
not going to work out.
That's not going to work. I don't care who they are. But ultimately, she was not the right for me. And that's something I wasn't man enough to. I guess when you grow up the way I did, there was a lot of hiding from the truth. The truth is that I was not man enough to be in a marriage yet. I wasn't man enough to tell her she wasn't right for me. I wasn't man enough to do it on my own and raise kids by myself. I at that time when I broke up with a girl, I would just stop talking to him. I didn't have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing until I met my wife, Erin. And I'm like, oh, you're supposed to have a talk and say goodbye. But yeah, so I just lacked all those skills. They just weren't taught. I had alcoholic parents, drug addict parents. They weren't around.
And I mean, what kind of role models did you have? Did you have any positive ones, or was it just drugs and drinking and
zero?
Just high and drunk all the time.
Harleys and highs, and that's it.
Okay. Who was your first? Like, who's the first person that came into your life that helped you to turn that around? So, like, mom was a consistent. Hey, man, you're drinking. This is because you're drinking. You need to get your shit together. Were there other people along the journey that popped in for you?
Yeah, my grandma was a solid character in our lives all the time. She was our second mother, if you will. But they're not real good mentors because they were telling me what to do. They're authority figures. The people that meant the most as mentors were the ones that I didn't have to listen to, and I think that's still true for me today, for people I help today. You get on a soapbox and you see them zone out. If you're helping someone, you just see them zone out. And I'm just excited, like, oh my gosh, you're young. You can do all this. Yeah. You don't even know. So, to be honest, I found mentorship in friendships when I probably shouldn't have, because I was picking friends that were a lot like me, but maybe more successful in other areas. My best friend in high school or in college, he was really good at football, and we were tight. We were roommates, all that. But once I got away from him, I sort of excelled. I got really good at being a chameleon. As a child, to fit in with dad and mom, to get that attention and all that stuff, I had to do what they were doing. I did a lot of sports and stuff, but they weren't into it. I was into what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And so I just sort of kept doing that. I would find these people that I shouldn't be around. They're going to stunt your growth. So I felt like until I was 30, I just was under this cloud of, yeah, I could be successful, but
when did business come into the equation for you?
Yeah, so in 1997, I was a trash man, and my mom, I got pregnant, and my wife did, or my future wife did, and my mom said, hey, I just started this bail bonds company. Why don't you help me grow this? Come to work for me. Last thing I want to do is work for my mom, but she promised me $35,000 a year. I was like, dude.
And did you know anything about what you were getting into?
No.
Because you've got some good stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, at the time, she hadn't been real vocal about, I've been on a couple bounty hunts with her at this time, just kind of backing her up, being, like, what's going on? But $35,000 a year at the time I was making $300 a week.
Yeah, some good money.
Back then.
$35K a year. 97?
Yeah. It was all right. Yeah. For me, that was more money than I'd ever,
Doubling your money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. But when I came on, it was this cool little team that, she kind of kept me on the guardrails, and I had the ideas, and that company grew quick. And then I went through some real dark times. Her and I were not getting along because I was still partying my ass off, still spending all that money on drugs and alcohol. And I had a wife and kid at home that I was not spending it on. So long story short, she and I split up for about 6-8 months. And then I went, once I got sober, I went back to her and said, hey, let's try that again. So she allowed me back into the company, and then we just grew the shit out of it after that. Yeah. Like, all the cloud was lifted. I didn't have any extra, when you're running a business, if you're not focused, you're not going to do well. You have to stay focused, and which is still challenging to this day when you have multiple things going on. But once I got sober, I was focused. It was the kids and the business. And so my house was clean. Kids were groomed. I saw them all the time. And then we worked. And the kids would go to the jail with me. And we had these cool little backpacks. We called them bail bags before computers and iPads and all that. And had coloring books and stuff. And they would sit in the lobby and do coloring and hang out. And we'd be there at midnight. Sorry, guys, get up. Let's go. Yep. And they knew the meaning of work at that point.
A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife Emily and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in northern Colorado of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com. Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals, and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com.
But we grew that business huge. Like that was.
You're getting sober through that though. There's that point when, because I remember from your book, you're like upside down in a ditch. I mean, was that the moment where you're like, okay,
so
gotta figure this out?
Real close to the moment.
Okay,
like that was my rock bottom. That was my second rollover car accident, and both times in the rollover car accidents, I was pitched from the car. And just lucky to be alive. The cars were mangled, and even in the first accident, the car landed on top of me. So I was just damn lucky that it didn't land on my head and squish me, and came away with relatively no injuries. I mean, I was knocked out in the second one. As the book starts out, some random ass jogger in Nebraska, just driving. He's running by. I mean, I'm literally miles out of town, and he's just running down a dirt road. So, he found me, brought me to the hospital. I escaped my 4th DUI at that point, because the week prior to that, I had gotten my 3rd DUI in Nebraska there. So. Sorry, I just reminisced there for a minute. Woo! Fun. So that was the turning point, but I still wasn't quite there. I didn't know what to do. I was homeless. I was staying on someone's couch. That was the end of my job because I couldn't walk. I had a bum knee from then on. I couldn't even walk at the time real well. So I sat in there, just getting the room this guy let me stay in, just getting drunk. Every time I could get a chance to drink, I was drinking. So I got to a point where I was drinking Blue 100, which is 100 proof schnapps, and I would keep it in my drawer too, so that at night I could wake up and drink it, because I was getting the shakes and stuff. Couldn't sleep, and so that got pretty bad. And then I went on a coke bender one last time, and that was the end. Like, when you do cocaine, you get this massive amount of depression, usually when you've done too much and you've been up too long. And that happened. And it just was like, oh, man, I'm not going to die. Look at all this stuff I've been in. Yeah. I'm not going anywhere. So it's time. This is it. So I woke up the next morning. I slept for like a whole day. I woke up 2 days after the bender and just stole a bunch of change out of my buddy's change holder, got enough gas to get back to Colorado. I knew I had to get back. My kids were here. And so at that time, I hadn't seen my kids in 6 months, hadn't talked to them, nothing. Like, I just disappeared. I moved from Colorado to Nebraska, homeless. I had all my shit in my car, and that's where I had a friend that let me sleep in one of his rooms, and he was over my stuff too. So, it was time to figure it out or die, and that was it. And so I headed back to Colorado, begged my brother if I could sleep on his couch for a bit. He was like, he had his own troubles going on and was also about to get married. And he's like, man, I swear to God, you're out of here if I see one beer in this house. And so, yeah, I took that seriously. Do you talk about a mentor? My brother mentored me for a little bit. Like when your little brother has to mentor you to get yourself back, to me, that was low.
A little bit of a wake up.
Yeah. Like, man, I'm in bad shape.
But now that's the transition though, right? So you move back, hit Colorado with little brother.
Yeah.
And then you're changing direction.
Yep.
At that point.
It was on at that point. I went to 90 meetings in 30 days. I went to AA meetings.
Okay.
That's all I knew. My mom had been pounding that shit in my head. AA. That's how she got sober. So yeah, I got a job, and I got a 1-bedroom apartment. Like a month, I couldn't be at my brother's very long. For sure, in a month, I was 1-bedroom apartment on my own. That 1-bedroom apartment allowed me to get my children back in my house.
And you're bail bondsing it at this point still, right?
So,
you're in the business with mom?
At this point, I'm still not.
Okay.
About a couple months after that, still at 30 years old, we have the conversation, and she just says, I'll send you some extras. And I'm like, okay, that'll get me started. Back then, if I made an extra couple $100, that was awesome. We put food on the table for that. So, but that, as it does, especially for me, I don't ever just, I'll take onesie twosies. No, I'm out pushing. I'm trying to get a business going on my own. And it really was a great match once I was sober. Mom and I were making good decisions. I was working my ass off, constantly at doing bonds, just as much as I could. I still hadn't thought about necessarily starting another business. See, I also serial entrepreneur, that sticks in my head. As a bail bondsman, that wasn't enough because I had this weird free time, I thought. And as a drunk, it was weird drunk time. But right before I got sober and before I lost it all, I started a fence company.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was solely so I could get my cousin who was living with me at the time a job. Like, okay, he had some things going on that we just needed him to work. And anyways, long story short, I was working full time and being a bail bondsman and trying not to think about what else I could do. Yeah. Spend that time being sober. Spend that time with myself, if you will. Any free time I had was with this guy, trying to figure shit out. I was going to counseling twice a week for 5 years, trying to figure out this brain, find out what the hell is wrong with me. And lo and behold, here's the thing. There's never anything wrong. Like, you go to counseling and it's all in there. You just got to think about it.
Yep.
At 51 years old, I just figured out that my mom and I had a codependent relationship our whole lives. Yeah. And I'm like, how does Aaron fit in that? How's my wife fit in there? Mm-hmm. I had a relationship with my mom for 51 years. Right. She can't fit in that. And Aaron been telling me that for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. How did you meet Aaron? Because we met, when you and I met, you were with Aaron.
Yeah. Right. So Aaron and I have been together 19 years now.
I've known you about 12 to 15, right? Ish.
Yeah. 2009.
Like Max Muscle days.
10, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's quite a while. Time flies.
Crazy. So how did you guys meet?
So originally I met Erin. I was on a bounty hunt, and cops got called, and she was one of the cops that showed up, and she assumed I was gay, and I assumed she was a bitch, and that's.
Why'd she think you were gay?
I was wearing a pair of conductor pants, train conductor pants. They had stripes, rolled them up. So I'm one of the first metrosexuals in this state, for real.
Okay.
I had a company called Metro Mail.
I've never tried on a pair of conductor pants.
You got to try it.
You like them?
If you roll up the pants, and I had a conductor hat, it was a whole thing. So yeah, I get it. I looked like I was dressed really nice.
Okay.
Weird, nice. So yeah, she there was no interest there, and in fact, cops really didn't like bail agents at that time for sure.
Why'd you think she was a bitch?
So my guy took off, and he was so far ahead of me I couldn't even run after him. But I saw him come out of the house, and I'm like, go in and arrest them for aiding and abetting. That's my co-signer. She knows I'm looking for him. She's helping him run, and she wouldn't do it. So I'm like, and she was being snotty about it. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Who knew? Who knew it would lead to?
Who knew?
Who knew? Right?
At that time, definitely didn't. About a year later, we went on a double date. Her date was my best friend, or one of my good friends at the time, and my date didn't show up.
Oh, so you weren't going with her. You're going with a friend. Okay.
I was going with my friend and my date, and he was bringing her. Yeah, and he proceeds to get drunk, and my date didn't show up, so we just sat and talked the whole time, and so goes the story. I had to go to him and say, all right, bros before hoes, man. Can I date Aaron?
There you go.
And he was like, yeah, man, I blew that. Go ahead.
Well, now you guys are working together in real estate now, right?
Yeah.
So long lasting relationship and marriage, and
Yeah.
she helped you get your shit together, I'm sure.
She
right?
did. She taught, the great thing about Aaron, like I said, I have no background of values and couth and like, how do you act in a certain way? So I find myself still to this day saying and doing the wrong things all the time because I'm just not, that just wasn't bred into me. But Erin has had me, she kind of gives me the rails for what's appropriate. Thanking someone after you have a meeting with them, these kind of little things that I never thought of.
You just never learn those things.
Never learned them.
Yeah.
I learned how to smoke weed. So she taught me a lot of that. The other thing she did for me was she gave me a backbone. She made me feel like a good person because I was only a year and a half sober when I met her. But to her, I was a good person, like just rough around the edges. And she kind of liked that, bad boy, if you will. I didn't follow the rules and do all that. And I had this huge extensive past, but especially with my kids, she was like, you're the dad. You're the dad. So you fight those exes and, get yours.
Yeah.
And that was the first time anybody told me that I was worthy of that.
So she helped pull your value out, see your value.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. And in fact, you speak of values, I didn't even know I had them. I mean, I knew, I had some. I didn't know that those were a thing. I didn't know values and principles and what that meant. You stick by these, you're loyal to them. Yeah. I had no clue until I met Jim Hensel, which
Got to talk about Jim.
Yeah.
And I think we got connected more through knowing Jim.
Yeah.
So I met Jim kind of through the painting industry because that was his background, and he came in and helped our company with Strength and Honor. So talk a little bit about that, because I know that was very impactful for me, for us here at M&E, and then also for you.
Yeah.
And then, that was even, I remember that gave us a lot of common language to speak about as we started hanging out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so Jim, it's funny, everybody's past. It means just as much when it's internal, when it's your past. Your history makes you who you are, and then brings you into the path of these other people that maybe had a different past, but got them equally to the place you're at now. And when I met Jim and he's telling me his past, I'm like, that's nothing, dude. Seriously? That changed your life? Really? But what he got from his life was very impactful to changing his life. Yeah. Which, who says you have to change? You don't. But when you want to, you need to. So I thought that was clever that we ended up at my kitchen table, and I was wanting something from him. I didn't know what it was. I wanted whatever he had because he spoke well. He was passionate about what he was speaking about. And every time he was in a room with kids, adults, didn't matter, everybody listened to him. And I wanted that because I knew I had something in there that people would find useful, but I didn't know how to get it out. I didn't know what it was. And so he helped me define that. So we sat down at the kitchen table for weeks just talking about stuff. And I felt weird, talking to a man about feelings and
stuff.
Yeah, that's so weird. And one of the things we did was go over the Worley way, which is the 10 values that I wrote about. And as soon as I got those, he goes, Aaron may not see these the same way you do. This may be a problem. I've seen divorces. And I'm like, well, she's going to do this or get out. That's what I thought in my head. Well, I went to her with these 10 values. She says, yeah, that's how I live too. We're cool.
Yeah.
We're cool. She had top value, family, hard work, freedom. These are all things that she lived by already.
Yeah.
And she saw in me, but I didn't know I had them. So together, these 10 values were easy to come together on.
Well, it's like, and everybody has them. And a lot of people don't realize that they have them or what they are until you can get some grasp on them.
Yep.
And then identify those.
What's funny is you say that, like I deal with a lot of gangsters. Those guys are loyal to a fault. Mm-hmm. They will kill for each other and ruin their lives over loyalty.
It's a positive value, right? The way we would maybe look at it or see it.
And to them, it's how their organizations survive. And I get it. Like,
if your life or business are cluttered up with junk right now, then you've got to reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts Hauling. Hulk Addicts can come out to your home or business to do anything from removing junk to appliances. Maybe you're demoing or doing construction on a property and you need it cleared out. Maybe you need a big dumpster dropped off that they can roll off later. Make sure to check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. They are serving all of northern Colorado as well as up and down the Front Range. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com. If you're a Christian small business owner and you live in northern Colorado, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian executive peer advising group that connects other business owners in the community to help you focus on your faith, your life, your leadership, and your business. Make sure to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com.
Nobody is more loyal than a gangster. Mm-hmm. They're just not. Yeah. I don't care if your wife killed someone in front of you, you would have to think long and hard if you're going to help her hide the gun. These guys don't. They're loyal, period. And so to me, I went, oh, yeah, that's why it's not the mafia that I used to like to watch on TV. It was the blood oath that they gave to each other that I like to see on TV. Yeah. That was some tight. I hung out in riding Harleys for a series of years, and same thing. The brotherhood was just, the loyalty was there. Yeah. Didn't matter. I'd bring my girlfriend on the back of my bike, and my boys would never say a word to my wife. Stupid.
So you start, so you're turning your life around, getting some values established. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and we always joke offline. You're like, I'm not the smartest tool in the box. I'd say F it and I try it.
Right.
But like, you're a successful business guy. You've got multiple businesses. You've gotten into lots of different things, real estate, bail bonds, probably other businesses I don't know about.
Yeah, I got
there's like 4 more.
Going on.
But what do you attribute your success to other than that F it, try it mentality?
So look, I had to, after I got the values, I started to, Jim helped me realize that I needed to get my story out there. That was the first thing I did, was put on my story on our website. Talked about being an alcoholic. People came out of the woodwork to be our customer. It was super weird. People were coming in, I want to talk to Ron, and I would hear their story. And all of a sudden we were sharing this honesty with each other. And I'm also sending them out the door with a vitamin, and I'm like, okay, there's something here. If I'm just real, be a positive, real person, that's what God asked me to do. And I can turn my life around. And I sort of left, that was like, leave the past in the past. It doesn't define me today. And so that's what kind of spearheaded me into, okay, I can do anything. Another thing I was told when I started Max Muscle was I was still in my pity party. Oh, I didn't finish college. I'm not very smart, blah, blah, blah. And my guy goes, Ron, business isn't about paperwork. Business is about relationships and getting shit done. And I was like, well, I can get shit done and people like me. Let's do that. And that's what I realized, okay, so I can literally learn anything. You can learn anything, and usually trial by fire. So if you want to try it, see if you can do it, and then apply the wisdom you already have, which is relationships, and get shit done. And it works. You can do anything. I mean, I couldn't be president of the United States, but
those three things almost sound too easy, right? So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about starting a business, I'm thinking back to early business days, just F it, you got to try it, build relationships, and go get stuff done.
Yeah.
There's only so much talking you can do.
Right.
You got to go do.
Right.
And you got to know how to sell stuff.
Right.
I think that's just being able to
ask for the sale.
Somebody that you've got something that they need that can make their life better. But you also share too, like sharing the value of your story. Because I'm talking to a gentleman right now. He doesn't want to come on the show because he's embarrassed about his story. I'm like, dude, you've got a great story. You need to share that. Well, I don't want this person and this person to know about F them. Like, you got a great story that can help a lot of people, but he's just scared to share that. But I see people that really dig into their story to use it. And it's a lot of ugly story too that you hear from people.
Yeah. And I think
value.
it's great.
Yeah,
I mean, especially when you see where they're at now. Now the guy that's telling you that story and I'm getting him out of jail and we're driving home and he's telling me his story. I'm like, I honestly, it's going to sound horrible. I don't care. I won't work with people until they're a year sober.
I was just going to ask you got to get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
And is that a year, would you say?
A year isn't the safety zone, but it's like, okay, you can do anything if you can do a year sober. Like we can talk business, we can talk life, we can talk, I don't, people always come to me for business, but every time they come to me for business, I go into their life.
Yeah.
Because you can see the patterns that, is your house dirty? I love to go to their house. Is your house dirty? You're not going to be great at business probably. Yeah. It's just not going to work out. You don't have enough discipline to make your bed, clean your house, keep your kids looking. And look, this is personal, like this is just what I did. So I think what I did worked. Yeah. This is what I'll teach you. Get up. I had high school kids that I'd mentor and to earn, like I would make meals for them, trying to get buff and stuff when I was in Max Muscle. I'd make meals. So I had a week's worth of meals for these kids. And a lot of them, that's the only time they ate, was the meals I gave them. So, but to earn that, they'd take a picture of their bed being made every day. Yeah. And that was it. That's all I asked. Make your bed. Your room better be clean, dude. That's it. So I think that's the way adults are too. Clean up your life and it'll go into business. I'm sorry, I forgot the original question. We just keep going off on tangents.
What was the original question?
I don't know, but
too much coffee.
This coffee, dude.
Stuff is good. Well, and I was curious because I wanted to lead into this, and I wasn't sure if you drank coffee anymore. Because I remember you trained me for the one and maybe only Muscle Man show.
Oh yeah,
that I did the Warrior. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was
like
good.
They're gonna spray tan me in a booth. It's like 60-year-old ladies like, move it to the left so I can spray the other side of it.
You didn't have on my Metro Mail ball bag, evidently.
No, man. And if I would have had that, would have been trouble. That was the best I ever looked, worst I ever felt.
Oh yeah.
It was an interesting just dynamic and experience. But leading up to that, the story that keeps coming back is I'm over at your house, right? And we're like in the basement walking through the house, and you've got these big coolers, like gas station coolers filled with energy drinks.
Oh yeah.
And you're just popping one and cracking one, like the 24 ounce, like the big ass ones.
Yeah.
Like how many of those do you drink a day? And
at the time I was drinking 6. Yeah.
6. Right,
yeah.
6
to 8. I mean, you're not probably. I told you 8. That's probably right.
And you're just drinking these things. I'm like, you're gonna have a heart attack one day. Mm-hmm. And then you're speaking. Were you speaking?
Yeah,
to like the Weld County courts with Aaron?
Correct.
Share that story because I mean that was a big pivotal moment for your life.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the energy drinks played a part in that. So, 52 probation officers. I'm speaking to them about bail bonds, trying to make friends with them because of the stigma bail bonds has. Hey, I'm a normal guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a working man. This is my kids. This is my life. I try to do that to ease the gap between bail bonds and professionals. So I'm standing there. I feel a little bit dizzy, and I lean back. This is a half hour into it. I lean back on the table, and I'm starting to lose thoughts before this. I'm starting to, like, getting lost in like I'm zapping in and out of what I'm doing. I'm like, wow, that's weird. I just lost entire memory. So I get a little dizzy, and I sat back on the table, and I said, whew, I feel a little dizzy. My wife always thinks I'm going to have a heart attack, and I got heart attack out of my mouth, and I was already dead, like falling to the floor, and Erin had caught my head and started CPR. She knew immediately. She was also warning me I was going to have a heart attack. Not because of the energy drinks, because of the go.
Just the stress and busy and everything.
Yeah. And probably I didn't deal with stress well at the time. Like, nothing flew off my back. I was in it always, you know. And so she, luckily, so I died. That was dead as a doornail for 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Luckily, in that time, they had an AED machine in the building, put the paddles on me, and brought me back to life. I did have an near-death experience. Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard this. So I'm recently hearing more and more about this, so it's kind of validating that I was headed in the right direction. Because when I woke up, I thought I was being arrested, so I was fighting mad, pissed off. And when I finally got to the hospital and was like coming to, all I can remember is it was dark and cold, and I was tripping out like, whoa, that was not heaven, dude. So I kind of was a little worried because my experience was, it was pitch black, complete, like couldn't see my hands, couldn't see I thought I was just a mind. Like,
so you're talking to the guys.
Yeah.
And then you drop in the room.
Yes.
Just lights out for you though internally?
Yep. Lights out. Lights out. Completely pitch black. But I have my memory. Like, I'm thinking. I'm thinking to myself, first of all, the first thought was, did I dream my life? Was that real? Is this real? Where am I? Is this happening right now? And I couldn't.
So confusion, darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I literally ran through, was I dreaming that life of mine? I thought I had dreamt my life, but then I remembered when my daughter was born, and I went, and something filled me up with, love. And I went, oh, no, I was alive. I was alive. And then I don't know how long, I was only dead for 2 minutes and some seconds. So 2 minutes, 20 seconds isn't a long time. I fell face first which, mind you, I couldn't even see my body. There was no body, but I felt like I was falling face first into the ground. And as I did that, I saw a pinhole light, and the light got, reminiscence of Looney Tunes when Porky Pig comes in and says, that's all,
okay,
folks.
Yeah.
That bubble opens up.
Okay.
Same thing. I see a little light, and it opens up, and there's life. And I've got all these people around me holding me down.
So that's you waking back up.
That's me coming back to life.
Back to life.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of people, the research I've done, this is where when you die, you go to this place, this dark place. It's been described many times by people who have gone on after that, longer deaths. And they go on to meet heaven, Jesus, God, depending on how long they have. I read or saw a video on a lady that even saw God, and he pointed to her DNA and showed where he was at in her chain, her DNA strain. I'm right here, and he pointed to it. And when she woke up, she knew God was in her. It wasn't a saying. Yeah. It wasn't something she learned. He pointed right to where he was at, and he's part of our DNA structure.
Man.
So I don't know how, what do we all know? I just know for at least a year to 2 years, I was really scared to die. I did a lot of things to not die. When I woke up, they gave me approximately 6 months. You know, you could live 6 months. If you live 6 months, you might live 5 years maximum. Period.
Yeah.
We don't see people live. Myocarditis is kind of a common thing right now. I had a form of that. It's cardiomyopathy. Same thing. Left ventricle. Your left ventricle spits out 65% of your body's blood. Mine was doing 10%. Now, what causes that? Well, so turns out, at first we thought it was the energy drinks, stress, all the things I was doing. Turns out I have a bad copy of a DNA, a gene, bad copy of a gene that runs the electrical in my heart.
Okay.
Passed on by one of my parents, who I have since passed on to 2 of my 3 children.
And they can track that to something.
Yep.
Is there a way to fix that? Or
not yet.
That?
The asked the same question. I'm like, let's fix it. They said at the moment there is research to do that. Involves like some cloning type shit. It's not being done on humans yet.
Okay.
So the only thing, you know, for me, I did a lot of drugs, did a lot of bad things to my body. I'm sure that's what sped it up. So history, the energy drinks, when my heart, 2 months prior, I went into the doctor and was like, hey, my heart beats really fast. I passed out a couple times laughing and stuff. And she said, just stop drinking caffeine. Well, by then I was already damaged and I didn't know it. And so with the bad gene, the heart would speed up, and then you add caffeine and it's really speeding up. And it's like any muscle. You overuse it, it's gonna fail.
So after that experience, how's that changed just perspective on life and business and family and everything?
So thinking I'm going to die in 6 months, I started living like I'm dying. Like, okay, I'm going to go visit. I started visiting everybody I could, everyone. Old friends, I'm going to go visit. Just let them know I love them. This is the new Ron, like saying goodbye. Bought some fancy cars and shit so I could live a little. I couldn't even drive yet, and I needed to do some things and change my life. But I also was like, I have to experience some things that I've always wanted to. In my sobriety, don't be selfish. It was the key to the sobriety. Don't be selfish. So I did a lot of things for everybody else, but I wanted an arcade in my house. So I bought some video games, put an arcade in my house. I didn't want no damn Xbox. I wanted the hard shell.
Like the old school pinball.
Yeah. It's funny when you die and you know you're gonna die, you kind of go back to childhood.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time just remembering childhood and maybe changing what I wanted as a child, making it into what I wanted as a child.
Did you feel like that got robbed from you?
Yeah.
Because of the experience that you went through. Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah. And we don't have to put all the blame on my parents. A lot of it is being scared, whatever. It just didn't do a lot of things. I was ashamed of my nickname. Buster is my nickname as a child. 2nd grade, I changed my name to Ron, which is my father's name.
Well, Buster was a nickname?
Nickname,
Why was it Buster?
They knew a guy named Buster, and Buster Brown tennis shoes were popular at the time.
Okay.
So they just called me Buster. My cousin was Butch. Like, we're hillbillies, man. That's what they do. My dad's name was also Ron, and so I needed a nickname off the bat. But I didn't like my nickname, so I had a teacher, Mrs. Daly, in 2nd grade. She's like, do you like that name? I was like, no. So we went back to Ron. But now I'm back to Buster. I have hats and stuff. My car, I called Buster, like, just, I'm bringing it back a little, a little bit of childhood. When you're faced with death, you just kind of, I just wanted to bring back some life. Like, I hadn't been living, for everybody else at that time. Now it's time to live for me. And so I have this short period of time where I'm going to die. It's 6 months. If things start getting better, I'm going to get some more time. I'm praying to God I get 5 years. That's what I hope, and this year's August will be 7 years. So
I was say, because this was a while ago.
Yeah. So I'm 51. I was 43 then. It was August. So yeah, this August will be 7 years. This is how God works. And I know I'm not being a God show here. I'm just saying that some other intervention in the world works in mysterious ways. I was out looking for everything I could find to live. I tried stem cell. I tried every supplement on earth. And I went to my friend's mom's funeral and I met this guy, Bob, and he says, I can fix you with supplementation. I'm like, whatever, dude, but I'm willing to try it. So he comes in and he gets me. I'm already in the game. I have Max Muscle Stores. Supplementation only ever for the long haul helps you, but it's like it only helps. It doesn't ever fix, in my eyes. So he does this thing with my eyes. He looks in there and he's like, yeah, here's some supplements. And he gives me a couple, but they're not the right ones. But he gets me thinking. Then I read a book a few months later that is about supplementation and how this guy's cured hearts with supplementation. And I'm like, okay. So I start taking more different supplements and I'm not noticing anything. Then we go to sell our house and we call John Simmons to co-list it. We're not even with your C3 at the time.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And Aaron's like, no, John will sell our house. Yep. Cool. So he gets there and, so long story short, we have our first open house and Deanna, who was with C3 at the time, comes to do the open house and I'm showing her around and I'm breathing, from athlete to dud real quick, man. I couldn't breathe ever. So she's like, what, can I ask what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, here it is. She invites me to a multi-level marketing scheme. And I'm like, when I didn't know it, I get there to the meeting. I'm like, son of a bitch.
You found out real quick.
Yeah. Like, I've been to these. I've invited many people to these things.
Yep.
The company was Organic Gold, and I'm glad she didn't tell me what I was getting into because I wouldn't have went. I met a doctor named Dr. Bob there, and he put on all the people that he had helped. He put them on the screen, and I kept listening. And I'm like, it's worth a shot, right? So I meet with him via Zoom. He puts me on a cleanse, and in 2 weeks, shit you not, I'm 65% better. I went to the doctor before doing his cleanse and his supplementation, which, by the way, his supplementation was that of the book I was reading, just a lot more and more in depth. So I was headed down the right path, and it all had to be put in this or I wouldn't have done any of it. So Dr. Bob, I do a test, and I think it's called a BMR or BMMR, is a signal if you're going to have an event again. And mine was in the thousands. Okay. Anything over 100 on this BMR is likely for another event. I'm in the thousands. So I'm definitely hurting unit. 2 weeks later, I have a 17.
So that measurement is in that particular category?
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah. So my thousands is over 100. I'm for sure going to die from this thing. Like, that's what that test says. 2 weeks later, I go back into the doctor. We retake the test. The doctor's freaking out. He comes in. It's like a 17. All my other markers are way down. I'm healthy like a 30-year-old again. Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't know what happened. What did you do? I won't tell him because the doctor had already told me, do only my stuff. Don't do anything else. Yeah. So I just lied to him and said, yeah, I don't know. Cool. And walked out of there just happier than hell. That doctor and I just keep up with that regimen, and slowly I'm almost back to normal. So
prognosis now, long term, is
gonna live.
Back in it.
Doctor told me
Aaron gets to keep you.
Yeah. Well, the doctor told me that you're not going to drop dead anytime soon. So stop scaring the shit out of Aaron because I still have I go AFib once in a while, and I still get those blips I was telling you about where the heart will beat real weird and I get lightheaded and I kind of forget where I'm at and stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of weird when you're driving.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm glad you're still here with us, man.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for coming in today and sharing your story.
That was it?
Dude, we're in an hour.
Oh.
We just rocked an hour. See, I told you to go fast.
Yeah, I did.
Told you to go fast.
I hope I talked enough.
No, it's all good. I can't get this picture of the conductor pants out of my head now. See, that's gonna
You'll never see him again.
Never.
That was a young man's game.
All right, never again. Well, dude, we wrap up the show the same way with everybody. When you came here, you grabbed one of your favorite colors off the wall, and you've got your statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave it. What is it?
Yeah. So my statement is live like you are dying.
Love it, brother.
Okay.
Ron Worley, that's a wrap.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, man. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. I would be extremely grateful if you would go to mattshoup.com and click on the free tools and download those. On my website, you'll find that I've got some things for you wherever you are on your journey in life, leadership, and business. Start with those free tools. Maybe next, check out a couple of my books, my video coaching series, or maybe consider even coming to spend a week with me in Spain on one of my leadership adventures.